Rare snowstorm hits New Orleans. Severe ice storm leaves 1.25 million without power. A rare snowfall blanketed southern Louisiana and parts of Mississippi Thursday, closing schools, government offices, and bridges, triggering numerous crashes on major highways and leaving thousands and thousands of people without power. Parts of Louisiana were expected to get up to 4 inches of snow. Snow also covered a large area of Mississippi, including the Jackson area, and closed schools in more than a dozen districts. The National Weather Service in Jackson said up to 8 inches is possible in the southern and eastern part of the state. And a heavy band of snow coated windshields and grassy areas in New Orleans, where the National Weather Service issued a winter storm warning. Office workers stepped out of high-rises to catch snowflakes, snap pictures with cell phone cameras. At a park in New Orleans' uptown neighborhood, some people snapped photos and dodged snowballs. They couldn't believe it was snow until it started sticking to the ground. Flood watches in Alabama, North Carolina. In Alabama, heavy rains prompted forecasters to issue a flood watch for parts of the state. Flood watches were issued through Thursday night for much of North Carolina ahead of the storm system. Colder air behind the front could produce snow late Thursday and early Friday in the mountains. In Louisiana, nearly 7,000 power outages were reported in south-central parishes as falling tree limbs snapped under the weight of ice and snow. The wintry weather is rare in southern Louisiana. New Orleans' last snowfall in 2004 was a dusting that came 9 months before Hurricane Katrina struck. The record snowfall for the city is approximately 5 inches, recorded December 30th, 1963. And the Weather Service said the previous earliest date for measurable snowfall in New Orleans was December 22nd, 1989. Severe ice storm leaves 1.25 million without power. In the Northeast, an ice storm to compare with some of the Northeast's worst ever made a mess of the region on Friday, leaving at least 1.25 million homes and businesses in 7 states without power as it forced schools to close and brought down ice-laden trees and power lines onto slippery, dangerous roads. More than half of New Hampshire's homes and businesses lost power, and it was expected to take several days, if not longer, to completely restore electricity there and in other states. The storm wreaked havoc from Maine to Pennsylvania, leaving a sparkling, ice-covered landscape that was too destructive for many to find beautiful. For New Hampshire, the power outages dwarfed those during the infamous ice storm of '98, when some residents spent more than a week in the dark. Nearly 24 shelters were set up across the southern part of the state, and authorities were working to get generators to several nursing homes. All the motels have no electricity. Governor John Lynch urged residents to please go out of your way to check on their neighbors, especially those who are elderly and live alone. States of emergency in New Hampshire. All of the resources at our disposal have been made available to try to get the roads clear and power back on. The Red Cross, in conjunction with the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, had opened 23 temporary shelters across the state. New Hampshire homes and businesses without power topped 400,000, a number that represents approximately 55% of all the state's electricity customers, said the chairman of the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission. This is the absolute most significant power restoration effort we've ever had. Ever. There has not been a storm before that has affected more customers than this one, said a spokesman for the state's largest utility public service company of New Hampshire. In other words, this was quite a tremendous storm. In other words, the climate, the weather is getting more extreme or more severe, more rapid changes, swinging from one side to the other. Yes, and all this is connected to everything else that is going on in the world, with the economic collapse, or the mortgage meltdown, or the recession, the financial systems of the nations of the world. Everything is connected. It's about the time. These are the times. Public service officials suggested repairs for at least some homes and businesses will go into next week, if not longer. They lined up 300 crews from as far away as Maryland and Ohio. And crews from Canada and South Carolina were headed to Maine, where the governor declared a limited emergency, allowing utility crews to work longer hours. Utilities there reported more than 227,000 customers without electricity, mostly in southern and coastal areas. In eastern New York, particularly around Albany, the state capital, outages at National Grid and other utilities brought the statewide total to more than 255,000. Trees were down on all the roads, said one man. Shelters set up in Vermont. In Vermont, at least 3 shelters were being set up in southern Vermont for more than 30,000 customers who were without power. It could be days, if not more, before some homes and businesses get their lights back on, officials have said. And the ice storm extended to Pennsylvania, where approximately 4,700 customers, most of them in the Poconos, lost power, and Connecticut, where some approximately 17,000 customers were without electricity at the height of the storm. Yes, all these things are more signs of the times. And yes, the earth is a living being in some kind of sense or way, and it has become out of balance, or out of sync. And all these things, extreme severe weather events, well, it's connected to everything else that's going on in the world. And all these are more signs of the end times, transition days. And there are many, many signs. Again, all one has to do is look around. Like I say, watch the news, observe the weather, the strange, weird weather. It's getting worse in many ways. Anyway, again, and all these are more signs. The time has come.